Hello. Hello. Hi. Rakesh Mohandas. Okay, great. So, good morning, guys. My name is Rakesh Mohandas. I'll be presenting you on predictive analytics today, along with Comsense Technologies, which is basically a US partner. It's a US-based company which has basically set up its base in India, which basically does a lot of marketing campaigns and predictive analytics. Today, what we are going to do is basically introduce the team on some of the capabilities that Comsense has developed along with IBM partnership. They developed a couple of assets in terms of banking, retail, insurance, and other areas or other industries. So we'll just walk you through a couple of use case in terms of what they have done from a banking perspective. We'll also have what we'll also do is we'll divide this entire session into two parts. The first part will be just briefly introducing you to some of the assets they have built through a predictive customer intelligence, which is IBM's premium end-to-end analytics suite. And then we will, in the second part of the session, we will basically present you some of the solutions that they have developed from the banking domain perspective, right? So going to the next slide, we will just set the agenda for today's session. We'll give you an overview about the marketing analytics that Comsense has developed along with IBM. We'll also talk about some of the analytics capability that we have developed in a box, which is basically, sorry, okay, I'll just hide this, sorry. So they've also developed, what we have developed along with Comsense is basically analytics in a box, which has the capabilities of machine learning, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, and real-time analytics in a box, right? So what we've also done along with Comsense is they've also bought their expertise in banking space, retail, and we have embedded those solutions as part of our PCI solution stack, right? So we also talk about some of the areas, some of the industries where we have developed. This would be a kind of generic in terms of what kind of solutions you can develop using the product. And we also talk about what are the pre-built assets that we have from the different industry like banking, retail, FMCG, electronics, insurance, and so on, right? But we will keep this session because we have limited time. We'll just keep this solution, this entire session for one industry, which would be the banking. We'll also talk about how we can convert the data into insight through one area that is from the banking space, right? And then we'll also keep a 15 minutes Q&A sessions where the audience can ask questions, and I will try to answer as much as possible. If I'm unable to answer, then probably I will just email it across to you post the session. All right. So the most important thing from the marketing perspective is the customer, right? Because we do all this analytics, all this intelligence, execution of all this intelligence at the end of the day for the customers, right? And customers are the king. Today, they have a lot of choices to make. The good part is customers, previously, if you see, it was all about interacting with them face to face. There was no data collected, right? It was face-to-face interaction. But today, with the advancement in technology, we are collecting all the information, right? We are collecting the information from the digital channel, from the POS, from their social. A lot of data is coming in, right? The good aspect of this is every customer today, let it be banking, insurance, and telecom, they're actually capturing all this information. But because there's a lot of competitive thing with respect to telecom, with respect to banking and other space. What we also need to understand is customers has choices today, right? So a simple example will be 20 years back when we used to have telecom, it was only BSNL, right? BSNL was the market leader, and it was very difficult for us to even convey messages if the phones are not working to BSNL, right? But if you see today, nobody has, what do you say, nobody has, sorry, so nobody has, people have choices, right? The customer has choices to either go to Airtel, either to go to Vodafone or Reliance Jio and so on. So the most important thing which we have seen today, the emergence of competition, a healthy competition among different competitors, plus the customer making the choices, right? So that's the most important thing. If you go to the next slide, it basically talks about what's happening is, and this is a survey which we did within IBM, right? So we went and asked a lot of CEOs, the CMOs, and others to understand whether they're able to deliver superior customer experience. And the shocking rate is 80% of those CEOs whom we interviewed, they said that the customers, they're able to deliver superior customer experience to the customers. The same survey, when we went to the customers and asked the same question, only 8% of them said that yes, we are getting superior customer experience. That means there is a difference in the way the customer experience is quantified from a vendor perspective and a customer perspective, right? So we need to basically close the gap between them, right? So that's the most important thing, and that's what we have seen, that there's a lot of difference between what is hypothesized and what is actually happening on the ground, right? What we've also seen is a lot of competition is there in the in every industry, right? And we also believe that by 2018, organizations who offer personalized recommendation to the customer, we have seen a jump of 30% in the ROI, right? How do we achieve this? We all already spoke about what are the different challenges that an organization faces, and how we also saw that how organization get ROI with this personalized way of communicating to the customers. But there is a solution for this, right? The first important thing for any organization today is to capture as much as information from the customer, right? That's the first step. So there are three steps in order to do a customer centric activity. The first step is to capture all this information about customers. Some of them the customers already provide to you through different transactions, through behavioral data and so on. The second one is actually getting data which they don't provide to you, which is basically data coming from social, data coming from IoT and other systems, right? So we need to be able to get all this information, some of them internal and some of them external or third party. Like get all those information and create a single view of the customer, right? That is the first aspect. The second aspect of this is using technology to find insights out of this data, because this data is too voluminous. Going individually with the data and making sense out of it will be very challenging, right? So if you want to make a decision at the individual customer level, you need to use technology to do it. It's very difficult manually to go and understand what these customers want, what kind of products you can cross in and so on. So the second aspect is use technology, maybe an advanced analytics which has machine learning, artificial intelligence and so on, to basically predict customer behaviors, right? A simple behavior would be whether this customer is happy with my product, whether this customer is potential to renew the contract, right? So these are simple use cases where you can use analytics, right? The third and the most important, because I've seen the first aspect and second aspect being done by the organization, but the third part is the most important thing. Once you get insights out of all this information that you collect, and after applying machine learning or artificial intelligence technology, the third aspect is to operationalize this, right? So when I say operationalize, it means all these insights, whatever you get at an individual customer level, needs to go as an SMS, email, or maybe as a mobile push to the customer, right? So he knows what kind of new products that you have launched, right? What are the new offers that you are providing to them, right? That's the first aspect. The second aspect is once you educate the customers on your new offers, new products that you're launching, then you also need to engage with your sales executives, right? You also need to give insights to the sales executive because they interact with your customers day in, day out. You need to give that insight to them that these are the top 10 customers, go behind them to close the deal, right? You also need to give insights to your call center agents when they are interacting with the customers about the support. At the end of the call, they can try to do a cross sell or upsell, right? So that's the second aspect where you can give this insight to your employees, right? The third aspect is the decision makers of an organization, which are nothing but C-level executives like the CMO, CEO, CFO, where you need to embed these insights into their systems and may help them make decisions. So these are the three aspects, the most important aspects of very successful, marketing analytics solution, right? If you see uh, about how to do it is easy, but you might face a lot of issue when you try to implement this, right? One of the problem is the complexity of data. I've seen customers working with terabytes of data, right? But do our systems help you to analyze those terabytes of data? Yes, it can, because the technology has changed. It can, the systems what we had previously works on even the biggest size of data that you collect, like the big data platforms like MapR, Hadoop, and so on, right? The second one, we also seen the biggest challenge is some of the systems are outdated, right? So even if I can give you insights, maybe I cannot embed these insights, right? So what we have also done within our solution is we have some of the pre-integrations available, which can connect to existing IT systems. You don't need to rip and replace with a new system. We can coexist with your existing IT system, right? Then what we also seen is the data or the information that you populate might be siloed. That means you'll have systems in multiple different database. You need to connect to all those systems and create a single view. Our systems will help you to do that ETL activity, right? The other one is the segmentation, whatever you develop, it's basically at a unidimensional level as a rule sets, but this system will create rules by its own. So you don't need to worry about the rules that you design, whether it covers the entire set of population. Our system will be able to create those segments, right? The fourth one is the analysis by channel, right? So or by brand. It's very difficult to go to the nitty-gritties at a individual channel level, but our systems will be able to give you that feedback, right? Of not only saying which is the best channel, it will also tell you which channel really worked last time, right? Then we also seen the simple rules-based offer. That's another challenge that customers used to do. They used to build some 30 or 40 rules based on which they used to run the offers. But the real world is much more complex, right? So our solution will also help them to develop rules through data, right? Not through experience, but through data, right? Uh, we also seen customers facing in terms of the context not getting reflected in the way they run campaigns. That's another issue. It's not contextual. We are able to solve that problem by not only analyzing the data, but also looking at the social perspective, what the customer has spoken on his social channel. Get that input. Like, for example, a customer says, I had got a new baby, right? Given that event which has occurred in his life, can we be very contextual in the way we can cross-sell certain products to that, right? So everything should be contextualized. It could be as simple as you call the call center for a support and the customer support team didn't do a great job. Then if you provide him an offer, he will never accept it. First thing we need to solve is his existing problem. Once he's happy with your services, then you try to do a cross-sell, right? So that's an important one. So the contextuality in the way you need to do a cross-sell is really important when you are implementing the solutions, right? Then we have actions not coordinated across channel. That's a very important aspect because I've seen a lot of SMS that I get, email that I get, or a push notification that I get simultaneously, right? So it should not be it should be especially the marketing communications that you send should be coordinated. And say, for example, you send an email to Rakesh Mohandas today, you should not send SMS on the same day, right? Because one, it will increase the cost of communication. That is one. Second is customers might not feel good when you try to interact with them across all channels every time, right? So it needs to be contextualized, it needs to be coordinated, right? The other aspect is poor integration, right, between the insight system and system of engagement. So one of the key things I've seen with a lot of customers is, yes, I get some insights, I have experience with me, but because I have poor integration system, I'm unable to give these insights to the people who interact with the customer more often, right? So what we've also done is the same system, which I'm talking about, the predictive customer intelligence. It also integrates with the existing IT system, and it also provides insights across all channels. So it's agnostic to channels. Let it be your CRM system, let it be your POS machines, let it be your uh, 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 campaign solution. So we integrate with all the system through a bus, integration bus, so that we can get the systems up and running, right? So we are not just talking about getting insights, but we're also saying getting insights and making it actionable, right? The last one is basically the feedback loop. So the most important and the ignored aspect of analytics, which I've seen, is not getting the feedback from the customers. Like, for example, I send an SMS, whether customers open that SMS, and can I say that, okay, SMS is the best channel for communication? What we do is we send SMS thinking the SMS is the best channel, but we don't get the feedback about whether it's opening SMS or opening the email, right? And that's the real important aspect. And what we have also done is we have the Watson customer automation system, so Watson campaign automation system, where we not only send the emails or SMS or mobile push notification, but we also get the feedback. And that feedback will help me or will guide me to better present next time to the customer, right? So that's an important aspect of the entire analytics. So these are some of the obstacles that we have seen with a lot of customers, and all these problems that you face today can be solved using technology like PCI and WCA. Let's get into what are the analytics that are possible from different industry perspective. These are very generic slides, but it actually talks about what are different applications you can think from an organization perspective, right? From the marketing, and this has been divided into five parts. So you can see different departments like marketing who can use the solution, finance, sales, operations, or customer care. So it is agnostic to your department. The same solution can be applied to all the departments within the organization, right? So from the marketing perspective, let's take an example of, so I'll not focus on rest of the departments, I'll just focus on marketing. In the marketing, you can see customer acquisition analytics is the core area which the solution can help you address. A simple example is trying to understand the customers from different social channels, trying to create a lookalike using analytics, and then trying to reach out to the customers on social channel. A simple example is I work for IBM, right? And I usually get some of the campaigns with respect to banking on my social channel. The reason why I'm getting that is because our customers like Axis Bank or Kotak is using our technology in order to identify the patterns of customers who are good in the existing data, and then applying it or trying to run this as a campaign on the social channel, right? Through which their hit rate has actually increased a lot, because what they do is they try to create a social lookalike customers and then try to acquire them, right, from different social channels like Twitter or Facebook. That's one way you can acquire new customers, right? The second one is on customer personalization, trying to understand what kind of customers I need to interact with, when I need to interact with what product I need to interact with, right? So that's the entire customer personalization which we have developed. Then we have churn or dormancy analytics. From the banking space, what we do is we don't usually tell it as churn analytics, because no customer churns, right? So here it's all about dormancy. That means they don't do transaction for more than 6 months. Then I say the customer is dormant, right? So we have solutions within our product which basically identifies which customer might be potential to dormant, when to re-entice them, when to send them offers so that they can get engaged with me, right? Then we also run campaign analytics, which tells me which is the best way of running a campaign, which is the most optimal channel of communication. Uh, and we also seen, because marketing is a space which is kind of ignored by a lot of companies, where they give only less budget to them, right? So I've seen companies who says, you know what, for this month I had just ₹1 million, and you need to run the entire campaign promotions for from this 1 million rupees, right? But thing is, with this constrained budget they have, They need to reach out to as many customers as possible. That is one, and they also need to efficiently run these campaigns. So what we have also done, yeah, what we also done is we also use a optimization engine, which basically helps you to go at an individual customer level to identify which customers, what kind of campaign you need to run, and which is the best time of campaigning for that individual, right? So that's the entire campaign analytics. It's a pretty broad area, but in a simple terminology, it will help you to gain more ROI with the limited budget that you have from the campaign perspective, right? Then we also have marketing optimization, and then the final one is the cross-sell and upsell analytics, which basically explains about how you can increase the share of wallet of a customer by doing more of cross-sell and upsell, right? Similarly, in the finance space, we have some of the areas from customer profitability analytics, treasury and predictive spend analytics, right? And even coming from the pricing, especially in the e-commerce space, when they want to price for each individual product, they use our solutions to do that, right? So we also have employee claims fraud. Some of the biggest example in this is Infosys or Wipro, who actually identify fraudulent claims which was done by employees using our solution, right? Then we also have profitability analytics and so on. So these are some of the use cases where analytics could be applied, and we have seen a lot of ROI coming out of this. And it's not like these individual solutions need to be run parallelly. It could be done, as a use case for each of the departments, and then you can implement this. It hardly takes time for implementing these solutions, right? Going to the next slide, it basically talks about from the marketing perspective how this solution helps you, right? Let's take the entire customer journey, right? From the acquisition perspective, the most important thing is trying to create a single view of the customer, right? Uh, so that's the first step, which is where we have solutions like entity resolution, which helps you to identify the single view of the customer. That's one. Then we also have customer acquisition analytics. We also do a lot of customer lifetime value analytics, saying that if this customer is going to be acquired, what is the lifetime spend that he might potentially do, right? So that I can do relevant offering or relevant campaigning for that individual, right? Then we also do a segmentation analytics to identify which is the best segment of customers I need to acquire, right, from different services. Second stage, once you acquire the customer, you also need to retain the customer. You need to ensure that the customer is loyal with you, he buys more from you, and so on, right? So for that, we have these areas which helps uh, to gain more loyalty from the customers, like customer interaction analytics, pricing analytics, offer, new store location analytics, next best action modeling, and RFM, right? The next best action modeling is the most important one out of this. The reason, because once you have the customer, you need to know what's the next best thing you need to do. So it's not cross sell or upsell. It's basically trying to say what's the next best thing you need to do based on certain events or triggers from a customer. A simple example is if a customer is unhappy with you, you should not give him offers. You need to try to solve those problems, right? But if the customer is happy with you and you know that event is he's going to have a baby, maybe child insurance is the best thing which you need to give to him, right? So it's about the next best action rather than next best offer, right? From the customer retention perspective, we help identify customer dormancy, whether the customer is going to be dormant or whether the customer is going to churn. A simple example is in telecom, we try to identify whether the customer is going to switch the network, right? So we try to identify when he will switch, why he will switch, and what's the reason behind switching. Is it because he's price sensitive, or is it because he doesn't get calls, right? Good calls in a good network in a particular place, right? So we try to identify the root cause of it. Then we also do a feedback. Like we also seen a lot of customers do a lot of surveys. We try to get that survey data and try to analyze those information and say what are the top reasons of customers uh, uh, negative response, right? Then we also do campaign analytics, fraud, and event analytics. These are different use cases from the customer retention perspective. And the last stage is once, for example, the customer uh, is about to churn, you also need to ensure that you arrest the churn, right? That's the first step. And then the next step is to re-entice them. Some of them who have actually left you need to re-entice, you need to reach out to them again, right? And then try to get them back to the organization. So some of the use cases for that specific perspective is on migration analytics. Try to see whether what these customers are trying to do, uh, what leads to churn, right? So some of the customers have certain patterns of churning. So you like, for example, I will make less number of calls during migration from one network to another network. So I know this is the usual pattern. So I need to know what migration happens for a customer. That's one level. Then the second one is revival. What makes a customer to come back to my network by certain set of offers, right? We also seen referral analytics, win back email campaigns. These are some of those use cases which helps me to re-entice the customers, right? So what we also seen is over a period of time, when you develop multiple solutions across different areas of customer journey, the ROI that you gain is high, right? So it might not be something which you want to run in parallel. It can be sequential, or it can be even parallelly working, right? So these are some of the customer analytics value chain that we have from the marketing perspective, right? Now let us try to understand that how do we solve this problem, right? End of the day, I know the use cases, I know the these are the areas or the challenges that the industry faces, but how do we solve this, right? So what we do is first we try to integrate with your existing system, right? So we get all your data from your POS machines through your digital channels, maybe your World Wide Web or maybe your website, from your social channel, right? Or maybe from your mobile devices. We get all this data. We also get data from call center. We get data which is unstructured, which is basically call center transcripts. We get data from your direct mail or from your marketing cloud platforms, right? So once we get all this information, we collate that information. We create the entire customer 60-degree. We an offer management solution, right? And we try to run a campaign. That's the first step, right? Once we get, once we run the campaign, we also get the response history from those campaigns that you execute, right? We record it. We try to ensure that we record all this information, right? The second part is the social behavior or the digital behavior, right? So what we also try to do is we also have solution like WCE, which basically understands what these customers are doing on your web channel. What are the different struggles that they have on the website or in your mobile device? We also try to get information from your online channel, social channel, right? Like where Facebook, your Twitter, and other channels. So we get all this information. We collate all those informations together. We try to get data from your social, which is customer feedback data. Once we get this information, right, so we use analytics. We use analytics to basically try to understand about an individual customer, his preferences, his next best action. We also try to understand what's the next best cross-sell strategy that I need to have with them, right? Based on that, what we also do is once we get this insight, we execute that insight through a campaign execution system, right? So once we execute, we try to see events and patterns, right? We try to see what kind of pattern the customer exhibit from a campaign perspective, feedback, and then try to optimize our strategy again, right? And then once we are happy with the offline way of running all this marketing promotions, we also try to embed this intelligence into my real-time system, right? So a simple example is if you go to an ATM today, after end of a transaction, you can see an offer that is being presented to you, right? So what we also do is we help presenting that offer, right? So not only we analyze what's the best product I can cross-sell to him, but we also tell the customer when he's reaching out to you, which is the best product for him, so that he can make choices, right? What we also do is once we have all these things, we also try to plan and design this. So we create the entire flow of how to reach to a customer, and then we also try to see, okay, if I try to reach out to these many customers, what's the financial impact? How much marketing spend I need to do, and so on. So the entire planning and everything happens within the same system, right? And the entire system integrated by a system called as Universal Behavior Exchanging platform, which actually transfers the data across different solutions, so that you can run the campaign in a more seamless way, right? PCI perspective, these are the solution areas that we have. So it's a, if you see the the way we introduce the solution is the analytics in a box, right? So what does it mean for you is you have this entire framework of database, unlimited database where you can store as much of information as possible. So that licensing comes unlimited for you. We also have integration bus, IBM integration bus, which can connect to all your applications. So when I said that it's agnostic to connect to your POS machines, to your ATM machines, to your website, and so on. The reason why I said that is because we have IBM integration bus, which is embedded into the system, which you can use to make an API call and so on, right? Then the system also have WebSphere application server, which acts as a app server for the entire solution stack. And then we have the analytical solution framework, which we have worked along with Comsens to develop for specific industry, right? So we have pre-built solution, which is just a plug and play. So in the next 15 minutes, probably I'll start demonstrating the solution which we have built along with Comsens, right? The centermost region what we have is the analytical engine, right? So the analytical engine is where you develop all this predictive analytics, all your machine learning, artificial intelligence, everything works in that space, right? Once you have this intelligence, then you can use our Cognos business intelligence suite, which is now called as Cognos Analytics, to basically do a reporting. The good part of the solution is you don't need to create report by drag and drop. You can just ask questions just like Google search, and it'll give you answers as a dashboard, right, as a report on your BI interface. Then we also have a optimization engine, which basically helps you to do certain linear programming problems for marketing optimization, right? The other good thing is whatever insights you develop, you can build, you can integrate that into your data, which is in motion through info streams. You can integrate to your call center agents or your ATM and other things through IBM Interact, right? So this is how the entire solution stack looks like, and the solution stack will address all your analytical requirements, right? Starting from fetching information from different data, doing your ETL, data integration, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on, including your social. And then the same system can embed this on your existing IT application, let be POS, let be ATM and other systems. Plus, it can uh, present the same insights as a BI dashboard, which you can consume on your mobile device, on your website, or on your dashboards, right? So this is how the entire capabilities of PCI is just one system where you can do end-to-end analytics, right? So that's the only system in the market today which does end-to-end analytics. The thing is on the data management, this is an important step because before doing analytics, it's important to do a lot of data extraction from multiple systems, cleanse the data, do a data transformation, standardize your data, and then store that information for further analytics. So we solve the entire end-to-end data management perspective, from data enrichment, from getting data from social sites, getting data from your mobile applications, and then do a geocoding or reverse geocoding and so on, right? And the entire storage of data can be done within the same solution stack, right? So it has the capability of in-database analytics, data replication, data compression, data encryption, and so on, right? So, data integration perspective again, because since we have IBM integration bus plus the solution is agnostic to database, you can see on this slide that it's agnostic to any kind of data, right? So it could be in your database, it could be data which is in motion. It can be data which is from third-party system, right? So all your CRM system, your ERP system, it can connect to those information. It's agnostic to big data platforms like Spark, Hortonworks, Google Big Tables, Hive, and so on, right? Okay, so this is on the entire capability perspective which I just spoke previously in a single slide. So these are different applications that the system has, right? This is some of the industries where we use, from retail, banking, telecommunication, and insurance space. These are some of the applications. Like from the retail perspective, we have a market basket analysis, we have price sensitivity analysis, category affinity analysis, dormancy analytics, right? cross-sell, upsell. These are different applications or use cases where we have worked along with Constance to create uh, retail specific models, right? So the banking, we also have churn analytics, credit card default, fraud analysis, and so on. From the insurance space, we have persistency analytics, customer lifetime value, policy recommendation, and so on. Okay, so these are some of the solutions that we have from different vertical perspective. From the banking, we have behavior-based customer insight. We have wealth management. We have insurance, telecommunication, media, and entertainment. Okay, so let's go to the demonstration. So today, what we'll do is, because of lack of time, I'll not be demonstrating anything, but I'll be demonstrating one aspect of this entire solution, right? Starting from banking space. So I'll be just talking about banking, how they are using our technology to create solutions, right? And this entire workflow, whatever I'm showing to you is something which is like a blueprint which we have created for a banking perspective, right? So let's go forward. So I'll not introduce you much with the software. So I just because we have less time to present this. So what I'll just show you is how the solution looks like and what is the insights that we get each time, right? So if you see, this solution is where you develop all your analytical model. So this solution, this particular interface will help you to do 5 aspects of things, right? One is it will connect to all your data. It's agnostic to information, right? It can connect to any of your data sources. Second, it will help you to do your ETL activity, get data from multiple different systems, collate them, and store that information. That's the second thing which it does. The third thing which it does is doing your analytics, right? So it has all this machine learning models, artificial intelligence models, statistical models, where you can actually develop all this, right? So what I'm showing right now is the modeling interface in the bottom of the screen, where you can see different algorithms which you can use in order to get insights out of your data, right? That's the third activity it does. Fourth activity it does is basically it creates entity resolution. Before even getting analytics, it also does deduplication, family profiling, and so on, right? In addition to that, it also does text mining, right? So it basically looks into unstructured data, analyze your unstructured data to come out with certain patterns, which will be helpful for you to make certain decisions, right? Like what is the negative sentiment that's coming from the customer? Which product has the most negative sentiment? So it analyzes those bidirectional feedback coming from your customers, right? The last one it does is it ingests all these insights back to your database. It also ingests the insights into your campaign automation engine. It can also give insights as a real-time system, right? So it also does that. So that's a brief about this interface, what I was talking about. Let's go to the demonstration, right? So if you see the data which usually a customer provides to a bank, so it looks like this, right? So initially, if you see, he will have an account number. The customer provides the landline number, father's name, mother's name, name of the customer, email address, and so on, right? So if you carefully observe this data, right? So if you see Rakesh Mohandas, these 3 people, actually these 3 people are not 3 person, actually, it's just one individual, right? One aspect of data, right? So if you see, it's actually the same customer. If I go manually and look each one of them, right? But if you have a 1 million customer, 2 million customer, manually going through each of the data is very difficult to identify whether it's the same customer or not, right? That's the first biggest challenge we have seen with the customer, right? So first, I want to say, okay, this customer is one customer and he has 3 accounts, right? That's the first thing which I need to do as part of my deduplication. Second thing, if you carefully observe, Shalini Mohandas, Rakesh Mohandas, and Shobha Mohandas. 3 people are not different people, right? 3 people are coming from the same family, right? Because their father's name, mother's name, and maybe the address and the landline number. Here, it's I think it's a mobile number. If I look into the father's name, mother's name, and address, actually the same family. All Shalini Mohandas, Rakesh Mohandas, and Shobha Mohandas are coming from the same family. So second problem that I want to solve is create an entire model with respect to a family. Because when I give an offer, or when I calculate the customer lifetime value, I need to see customer not from an individual perspective, from a family perspective. I'll tell you the reason why. Say, for example, Rakesh Mohandas today is getting a salary of say 20,000 rupees, right? And he's trying to apply for a loan which is say 15 lakhs, right? If you just look at Rakesh Mohandas with 20,000 salary, you might really think again whether I need to give a loan to him or not, right? But just imagine if Rakesh Mohandas' father is a person who is a businessman and who is getting a salary of a crore, and if you know, okay, Rakesh Mohandas is his son, maybe your perspective might be different. Maybe you might not give a loan to him, but your perspective of that person or that individual might be different because you're looking at that customer as a long term, not as a short term, right? So it's very much important that whatever you do today, you need to look holistically rather than as an individual. So how do you solve this problem? So what we do is we have an entity resolution system where first thing I'll try to solve is the entire golden record of the customer, right? So how do you identify this golden record? We use certain pre-built KPIs. Now the good part of this solution is it has some of the pre-built KPIs based on which you can identify whether it's the same customer or not, right? We can do the entire verification. So we have pre-built solution with respect to account number, Aadhaar, email address, location, and so on. Even your uh, PAN card. So we have all those pre-built KPIs. The only thing you need to do is you need to map each of the attribute with the pre-built KPI. Like for example, the landline number, you will specify that it's I'm going to map this with respect to phone number. The name of the customer, I'm going to map it with the name. Email address with email. Address one with address 123, right? So once you specify this and you run this, finally what the results you get is like this. Is three customers, that is Rakesh Mohandas, Rakesh EM, and Rakesh E Mohandas, are actually the same customer because the entity analytics ID is the same, right? And it also says you can consider the first customer, Rakesh E Mohandas, as the primary customer. The remaining is nothing but a duplicate data, right? So now you know that okay, how many accounts Rakesh Mohandas has, who is duplicate, and so on, right? So that's the first thing which you did. Now, once you do this, right, the second problem that we would like to solve is to identify the family profile. Now, how do you identify the family profile? Again, the system is not very intelligent. You need to give instructions to the system, right? So the instruction that I'll give is I will try to identify whether they're coming from the same family based on certain attributes. The attributes could be the father's name, the mother's name, and the address, right? So once you specify this to the system, what the system will do is it will resolve the entity and say and create a new column which says these three people are actually related, coming from the same family. Now you know when you run a campaign, rather than running it on one individual like Rakesh Mohandas, you will try to see the entire family as a loyalty program and then run a campaign specific for that family, right? So if there is no relationship, maybe you run a individual campaign. But when you see there is a relationship and you see the relationship is giving you a huge business, you might try to approach them differently, right? So once you do this, right, once you have decoded the family profile, the next question that you will try to apply is, okay, today, and I've seen this a lot with a lot of customers, right? The problem that they face today is any campaign that they run from a festive season perspective, they just go and spray and then they try to pray which customer will respond to a campaign, right? Now the reason why they're doing that is because a simple example, like I'm from Kerala, right? So if there's Onam as a festive season, if you approach me at that time, maybe I will buy your offer. But if you approach me for say Pongal or Baisakhi or something else, maybe my response rate might not be that good, right? The reason why is because you don't know which location is coming from. And today, because people travel a lot, a guy from Kerala might be in Mumbai, a guy from Chennai might be in Delhi, and so on. So you need to be very focused on how you need to approach the customer, right? So what we also done along with Comsense is we created the entire library for Indian customers, right? So what we have done is we looked into the last name. Like for example, if you see here, Rakesh E. Mohandas, Mohandas is a surname which comes from part of Kerala, right? Even Matthew, Milan, these are all people who are Christians. So Whenever there's a festive season with respect to Christmas or some other festival, I might send them a campaign with respect to that, right? So what we have done is we have created this entire library which basically identifies it. So let me show you the end result. If I run this entire analysis, what it basically does is it takes the name of the customer, it looks into the last name, and then talks about the ethnicity. It says, okay, Mohandas, it means he's from Kerala, potentially from Kerala, and if it's Matthew, is a Christian. So my all campaigns with respect to festive will be based on the ethnicity, right? So if it's a Christmas or if it's a uh, Good Friday or something, maybe I run a campaign specific for Christians, right? If it's a Baisakhi, I'll run it for Punjabi, right? If it's Ramzan or any other festival, I'll send it only Muslim counterparts, right? So I can be very specific in the way I run my festive campaigns, right? Because I have this pre-built library which helps me to do this, right? The entire ethnicity profiling. Okay, so that's on how you can gain more information about the customers, right? And the most important thing, if you see any banking space, right, the most important data and the most ignored data is actually a transactional data, right? I'll tell you why it is ignored. Why they actually, I mean, they do a lot of analysis, but they kind of ignore that. The reason why is because if you see this entire data in terms of transaction is concerned, people usually use withdrawal amount, deposit, and balances, and then run campaigns, right? But the real potential of a bank can be observed when they try to analyze this data, which is transactional remarks data. It gives you a lot of insight, right? One of the insight it says is this customer, this account number, he's doing transaction on Kotak Life, right? And he's doing transaction on life insurance. Now, the problem with this data, it's pure unstructured data, and we can't make sense out of this, right? I cannot say whether he has taken a loan, what is his salary, whether he's trying to do any kind of transfer between his family and so on, right? The reason why is because this data is unstructured. But what we have done along with ComSense is we have created a library to decode this transactional remarks, right? What does it mean is at the end of day, if I'm a bank, I can identify this is a transaction remark. I know that he's doing transactional life insurance and he's doing a transaction on Kotak life insurance, right? So I know that these are the two things which convert this unstructured data into a structured format, and on which I can understand the behavior of the customer. Let's say behavior, I can understand where he's doing the transaction, whether he's digitally savvy, whether he's doing transaction on an insurance company, what is his transactional amount, and so on. Additionally, I also know whether he already has a credit card, whether he's doing transaction on American Express, right? If he's an American Express customer, I'll try to give certain offers specific for him, which American Express also provides. Because I know American Express doesn't provide to a low credit card to a customer of a lower background. They always give it for HNI customers, right? So I can try to analyze those, right? I also know that whether he's doing a transaction on e-commerce sites, whether he's doing a transaction on Saloon. So I get all these things. Now the good part is, how did I decode it? Is because I have pre-built libraries which can help me decode this transaction remarks, right? So it's just the library which the data passes through and gives you these two, additional insights. Now, this is one aspect of it, right? So once we have this data, we also create the entire single view of the customer. A simple example of a single view would look somewhere like this, right? It says this account number, this is the amount he has done transaction on airline, on credit card, commerce, hardware store, stock exchange, and so on. All this insight of where he's doing transaction and how much is he getting out of this transaction, right? I'll also get to know his salary, his minimum salary, his average salary that he's gaining, and so on, right? So you can create the entire single view. I'm saying why we're saying single view is because each row is a customer transaction. Previously we had transaction, we converted those transaction into a single view, right? Then what we also have is if you are getting data from customers from a mobile perspective, right? So for example, which you have seen from a lot of customers, right? So they have customers who do a lot of transaction across different geographic locations. And if I want to offer him travel insurance today, right? I want to know whether he's traveling more often or not, right? So what we also do is we try to get that information through the mobile app. So if you embed an SDK, we know which location, we can get the location of the customer more frequently. And then what we do is we use something called as space-time boxes. What the space-time boxes does is it actually looks into the customer and then looks into his dwell time. So we're not just trying to get his lat and long wherever he's traveling, but we look into how much time he's spending in a specific location, right? So once we understand how much time he has spent in a specific location, we try to, just like a Google map, right? So it says whether it's a home location or a work location, we try to reverse geocode it. So saying that if we try to have this latitude and longitude of the customer, we decode this customer and say the latitude and longitude of the customer. That means he's coming from this specific address, right? And this is the region and this is the country he belongs to. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get more information about this customer, where he resides, whether he's residing in a place where only HNI customer resides, where he works. So I'm getting more information about him, whether he's a customer who travels more often, right? So I'm getting all this insights from it. Now, what we're trying to do is we try to merge all this information. We also have the final customer data, which we have merged. We are also trying to get the demography of the customer. Now, this demography is something which the customer provides during registration, right? So he also provides which geography belongs to, whether it's he works for MNC or he's having his own business and so on. Now, once we have this, then we also have data space in terms of online banking, whether the customer does online banking or not. And if you see in a banking space, online banking is the way of servicing to the customer, right? I want to ensure that all my customers do a online or mobile banking rather than coming to my branch, right? So that my entire cost per customer actually decreases, right? So what I do is I try to see historically which are the customer who had actually done an online transaction and which are the customers who have never done an online transaction. Try to see, because I have a fixed marketing budget, I don't want to reach out to all the customers who are not doing online transactions, right? So instead, what I'll do is I might try to reach out to those customers who are very potential to transform themselves from a offline banking to a online banking, right? So what I do is I use predictive models to identify that. Now, what I'll do is I will try to use all the transaction that he does in the past and then try to predict whether this customer is potential to do an online transaction or not, right? Then I will try to use some of these algorithms. Here in this case, I'm using a chain algorithm or chi-square automated interaction detection method. I'm running this. Once I run, I get a model, right? What this model will say is basically it's a decision tree model. It gives you two sides of the story. One is it says out of all the factors that you believed will help me in predicting online or mobile banking, there are only certain factors which will be responsible for predicting it, like age of a customer, whether the customer does a stock exchange transaction, whether he does an ATM transaction, hardware store, whether he owns a car, and so on. These are the factors which are responsible, right? Then what it also provides you a decision tree. Like for example, if the customer has a car, and if his age is greater than, if age is between 36 to 49, and he doesn't do any transaction on hardware store, then potentially he's a customer who might go with a online transaction, right? But if you see the other way, if his customer's age is greater than 49 and he withdraws a less amount, then the probability of him to go with the online transaction is very less, right? So once you have this insight, what the system will do is it will actually do a prediction at a customer level, right? So it says, given this scenario, what you have given to me, it will tell me what's the probability of the customer to do an online transaction, right? So it will give me these two insights, which tells me, okay, this customer is got potential to do an online transaction with a 53% probability, right? And actually, he was an online transacting customer. It's a good prediction, right? But sometimes the model will also give you a bad prediction, right? So, for example, this is a customer who actually was a online banking customer, but your model says predictors he's not going to do an online transaction. So, if you want to see how many times this model was correct in order to predict, you can also see a confusion matrix and identify that, right? So if I run this, it says, okay, your model is just 58% accurate, right, in order to predict this. Now, one is actually this model doing the prediction. The second one is the accuracy is less. The reason why, because the model they didn't have enough data. One is algorithms. You would have used better algorithms to give better prediction. The second one is the data. Now, if you see here, the people don't go for online account. There are multiple reasons for it. Some of the people are afraid to do online transactions. Like for example, my mother, she's afraid to do online transaction, thinking that people can hack her system and then do fraudulent transaction, right? So what you do is you try to go back to the customer and get feedback. So why are you not doing online transactions, right? And get those feedback from the customer. A simple feedback data, and I would prefer people to do a open-ended feedback. The reason why, because people can just be open the way their feedback, right? So they're not closed with the questions that you ask, but they can be open, saying that these are the different challenges I'm facing. Open-ended response from a customer looks somewhere like this, right? It says, "Oh, you know what? The bank's website is too slow, and the bank's website hangs, and that's the reason why I don't use your banking online banking system." Right? Some of them say, "I can't pay through a Paytm, and that's the reason." Right? So if you see, this is the entire feedback that comes from a customer. Now, to go through each of this feedback and making sense out of it is very difficult, right? So what you do is you use systems like text mining to understand this feedback, right? So I'm not showing what this text mining does. I'll just show you the results of this text mining. What this text mining system will do, end of day, is it will analyze all this structured data. One, okay, let me just copy paste here, and let me show you how the results look like. Okay. So if you see end of day, what results comes out is this. It will look into the unstructured data and gives you a bidirectional feedback, right? So it says for this customer, if this is what he has said, it means his website hangs and his website is very slow. If the customer says the password is getting stored to the browser, it means he means password is not secure. That's why he's saying that he's unable to do an online transaction, right? Or he's not using the online transaction. So end of day, looking at the entire feedback instead of looking individually, this is what the end result looks like, right? So it basically does the text mining and then says these are the top 10 reasons of why people are not going for online account. One, the website hangs. Maybe you need to educate them on what is the minimum requirement for the browser. Other people say the password is not secure. So you need to run a campaign specific saying that, you know what, our system is the most secure system, right? So rather than giving them offers to do an online transaction, you might reach out to educate them, right? Send them some meetings where we can educate them on how secure is your online transaction system, right? And so on. So now you know what to do. Now you know the root cause of why people are not doing online transaction. Now you can reach out in the best optimal way for providing them specific offers, right? Okay, once you have this, then for those people who are happy with you, right? What we also do is we can also do a cross analysis. A simple would look like so. For example, if you see this is account number, and these are different products that I offer today for them, apart from your savings and current account, right? So if you see this customer has bought a demat account, he has not bought any other product. Now, if you want to increase the share of wallet from a specific customer, you also need to know which is the best product you can talk to the customer on, right? So what we do is we look into all this product data and try to do a next best product recommendation to the customer, right? Now, how do we do it? We use a model to basically identify it. What this model will do is it basically tries to look at the patterns of customer purchase and then gives a recommendation, right? So once you get this, once you create this model, this is how it looks like, right? So for example, if you see here, say let's take an example of this, right? So a customer who is coming from Tamil Nadu, if he owns a gift card car loan, there are around 1 minute. Yeah. So if you see here, a customer who is from Uttarakhand, who has a housing loan, and who also uses a online or mobile banking, there are around 10 customers with this pattern. Out of these 10 customers, 100% of them actually got a life insurance policy, right? So like this, we have around 2,74,122 patterns of how customer buys a product, right? Now, end of day, what the system will do is it will actually do a prediction at the individual customer level. Let me just show you that. So what it basically does is if a customer has bought a demand account, it says what's the next three best product you can recommend to him. Now, this three best can be 20 best depending on the number of products they have. A simple example is the same solution is being used by a lot of e-commerce company, which like for example Amazon, right? So if you go to Amazon website, you see if you try to buy a product, it also gives recommendation what is the additional product you can potentially buy with a certain offers, right? How do they arrive at that? They actually use this algorithm in the back end to basically predict for a specific product that you are planning to add into the cart, what additional products you can actually buy with a certain discounts, right? Okay, so I think it's taking a bit of time. I think we are just overshot the time. Um, just 5 more minutes, guys. Yeah. So if you see here, it says for this customer has bought loan, the first best product recommendation that it does is that it says given the pattern in which he has bought, the first best product I can recommend to him is travel card. 81% chance that he will go with a travel card. Doesn't go. The second best product is general insurance with lower probability of 81.82 or something. And then it says the third best product recommendation for him is property loan with 81% chance, right? That's how it actually does a recommendation. So once you get this recommendation, the next question that you say is, well, how do I reach out to him? Which is the best way of communicating to him, right? So if you see here, we also have the data, which we can integrate and get that information into our system, right? So this campaign data will also give me information on which is the channel that you communicated to him last time and when did you communicate, right? For example, this customer was communicated through email and he didn't respond. But this customer, when you communicated through email, he responded. Now we want to see which is the best way of communicating to the customer. So we also have a system which is a self-learning system. I'll tell you why the reason self-learning, because most of the other data will not be dynamic, but the campaign data, which is the most dynamic data that you'll have, it is the campaign response data. So your model should be really dynamic in order to come out with those recommendation. So here what I'll do is in the system, I'll say I want to basically predict which is the best campaign and I want to identify the campaign based on the response rate of the customer, right? So once we give this final result of all this analysis, whatever we have done, let me run this again. Sorry. So I'm just running this algorithm once more. Yeah. So once you run this entire analysis, what do you get end of day, right? So basically created 2 4 use cases. One is whether the customer's potential to go with my online banking account. That's one. If he goes, then good. If he doesn't go, I know the root cause of why he doesn't go, right? So you have here, like for example, this account number. I know whether he's potential to go with my online banking account. That is one. I know which are the three best product I can recommend to him. Like for example, here it is travel card, general insurance, and property for this customer segment. And I also come to know that which is the best way of communicating to him. Like for example, this is the first best way of communicating to him. I'll reach out to him through call center. There's a 20% chance that he will respond through call center. The second best is I'll send him an email and wait for it for some time, right? So there's a 19% chance. Then if he doesn't respond, then I'll go with a face-to-face campaign, right? So this is how you can build your recommendation model. The consumption of that be one way could be your boots. Like for example, here I can have a sales executive, the sales executive dashboard, which says 10 customers I need to reach out to, right? I also know what's his net worth. I also know what is his attrition rate, right? So, for example, this customer is highly potential to switch, right? So once I get that, I will go deep into that customer and try to see, okay, why he's going to switch. What is the recommendation that my system is proposing to do? So for example, it says, okay, this customer is high risk customer. It also gives me the reasoning. The reasoning is decrease on login, is decrease in trade, and is decrease in average return, right? Given this problems that he's facing, it also gives recommendations saying that, you know what, why don't you speak to the customer, call him and discuss decreased portfolio returns, right? And it also talks of certain life event, which is basically coming from your social channel, saying that, okay, this customer is potentially relocate. That's what he has written on social site, right? It also talks about if the customer is potential to be retained, then probably you need to propose him either life insurance plan or a 401 rollover, right? So this is one way of consuming. There are many ways. It could be even your call center, it could be your ATM machines, it could be through a campaign and so on. So these are some of the solutions which IBM and Comsys has worked together to build and bring it to the market. So what I'll do is I will stop here. If anybody has any questions, then we will take this. Take this. So I think I need to. Okay. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me in the chat channel. Oh, okay. Audio. Okay, I'm just unmuting everyone. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
यार म्यूट था वो पीछे, या तो उन्होंने पीछे बोल नहीं रहे
You can also drop me a note on your chat. Any questions, gentlemen? No? Thanks everyone for attending today's session. If you have please keep us posted, and we'll try to respond to that. Okay? Great. Thanks everyone for joining today's session.